and welcome to Big Muddy Mayhem, the podcast where we talk about true crime and bad behavior in the Midwest.
Each week, we'll bring you 2 stories from the heartland that might break your heart, but we hope to entertain you along the way.
I'm Janet O'Brien.
I'm Tracey Laricha.
Hello!
Hello there, Janet. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing just fine. I was going to say, it's been a busy week.
Yes.
But I love that we get to sit down and take a breath.
Exactly.
And tell some stories. I have thought about your story so much over the week, and I have not Googled, and I have not looked at anything. But, Janet, I have to tell you, I just haven't been able to drop that transatlantic accent. Oh, wait, I've just had nothing on my mind except for the rest of this marvelous story that you're going to tell us. So, apologies to anyone that's had to be around me.
Janet and Tracey, they do podcasts. Stop!
You're supposed to be working an election, Miss Laricha. Please show some decorum. Stop.
I think we will benefit more if you just continue to record. Stop!
All right, so we really should stop because
Fine.
I can't wait another minute for your story.
Okay.
So,
Here's my book. I'm making a noise.
all right.
Okay.
Dorothy
Kilgallen.
Kilgallen. And when last we left off?
Okay, so we left off that, she was noticing some things that about Sam Shepard's murder trial.
Right.
Yeah.
And she
figured, there's something going on here because the judge said guilty as hell before he even selected the jury.
Right.
That's
correct.
not good.
No, that's not how that's supposed to work, is it?
No. And once he got out because of her testimony, which is great, once she got out, he was free. I mean, he didn't go down the great path. He went down the drinking path.
There is that.
Yeah. But she got him out, which is fantastic. So I'm going to continue on because that was a big story to her.
That really was.
But there was something coming on.
Okay.
Something going to happen. Okay.
I had my guess.
You had your guess?
I have my guess.
You're probably right.
Okay.
Okay.
Does it have to do with a former employer
No.
of hers? Oh,
It
okay.
does not.
Given the time.
Yeah,
and
Hearst, I know.
I thought maybe it's going to have something to do with...
Patty?
Yes.
Nope.
All right, then. Well, surprise me then, why don't you?
So, Dorothy, she continued her spot on What's My Line, and she continued writing for the Hearst Corporation. Over the years, she had lots of information on John F. Kennedy's affairs. Because, that was a thing.
Which one?
I know, right? She was also a close friend of JFK, as she had met him through Florence Pritchett, who happened to be one of his on-again, off-again mistresses.
Right, okay. I think that name is vaguely familiar.
Yeah. Florence, she was an American fashion editor, journalist, and radio and TV personality.
Okay.
I think I have a picture of her.
So she's just a full-on girl boss, right? Just doing it all.
Exactly. I mean...
Okay. Where do you find the time to screw the president when you're already doing all this other stuff?
So JFK started dating Florence, I'm sorry.
Florence, right.
Back in the late 40s.
Okay.
And supposedly they weren't together at this point, who knows, but this is a picture of her.
Okay.
She's very pretty.
She is very, very pretty. I was going to say, now where does she find the time to do all of those things professionally, sleep with the president, and still manage to put 2 live birds in her hair every morning?
Exactly. Well,
I'll link this photo in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, she was a close friend basically, Dorothy Kilgallen became pretty close to JFK, just friends.
Right.
Per author Sally Bedell Smith, as I stated before, her friend, Florence, had been dating on again, off again since the 1940s.
Okay.
August 3rd, 1962, Dorothy released an article hinting that Marilyn Monroe and JFK were a thing.
Having a thing. Right.
Yes, she was one of the first reporters to report on this.
Wow. And because she'll burn you too. Like, if you have, like, she'll be your friend, but
yes.
like we said in part 1, if she's got the story, she's
going to write about it.
She's going to go, yeah, it's in her blood. She can't help it.
Now, the thing is that Dorothy had been writing on Marilyn's, romances since 1953.
Right. I mean,
the first one she wrote, Marilyn was friends with Dorothy until she wrote the first one, and she's like, no, can't hang out with you anymore. I'm sorry. So Marilyn had already cut ties with Dorothy because of this.
She had to kind of learn to protect herself from a lot of people.
Absolutely. So she ends up. Now, you have to understand, during this time, Marilyn Monroe, she had some drug issues, she had some alcohol issues, but she was actually getting better. Mm-hmm. She was, starting to go out more, be seen in public, and her health was improving. In fact, when, she talked to other people, they're like, no, she seems way more better with it. She's doing a lot better.
Now, I think this is right around the same time she was studying with the Actors Studio, and she was staying with, Lee Strasberg and his family. Yeah, she's staying in that
little house.
Right, correct. Right. And his family.
So she released an article hinting that Marilyn Monroe and JFK were having some kind of an affair. Mm-hmm. Marilyn Monroe's health must be improving. She's been attending select Hollywood parties and has become the talk of the town again. In California, they're circulating a photograph of her that certainly isn't as bare as her famous calendar, but is very interesting. Oh. And she's cooking in the sex appeal department too. She's proved vastly alluring to a handsome gentleman who is a bigger name than Joe DiMaggio in his heyday.
Oh, wow. Oh.
So she, if anybody doesn't know, Marilyn Monroe is married to Joe DiMaggio the famous baseball player, for a year.
Right.
That was it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Although, did you know, quick little tidbit, that he arranged to still have, roses delivered to her grave, every week, almost in, perpetuity. He had something set up for... He never really did get over her.
Yeah. So, did I say what day the article dropped?
Oh, no.
Okay. When? What did I say? August 3rd, 1962.
Okay.
August 4th, I'm sorry, I said 62, I meant 63.
63, okay.
August 4th, 1963, Marilyn is found dead.
Oh, no.
The day after she released that article.
Oh, my gosh.
Now, Dorothy realized that she was most likely set up on purpose to do a smear campaign on the Kennedy brothers.
Right.
And most likely, she may have been pressured to write the story.
Oh, wow.
Once that happened, though, Dorothy started writing stories basically saying that she did not believe it was a drug overdose.
Right. That's because she was fooling around with a whole bunch of powerful, she was at least associated, with a lot of powerful men that were often in conflict with one another.
Right.
There were rumors about Marilyn with RFK also.
Right, exactly.
And also with some mobsters, and there was, the connections between the Kennedy family and organized crime are complicated.
They are. That is a good word, complicated. So after Marilyn was found of a apparent drug overdose, Dorothy's like, this doesn't seem right.
Somebody played me.
Yeah.
Somebody played the player in this case.
And the funny thing is that even though she was hinting around JFK, I read somewhere that she was actually talking about Robert.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But still, doesn't matter.
People are going to draw connections and...
Right. She challenged the authorities. If the woman described as Marilyn's housekeeper, Eunice Murray, was really a housekeeper, why was her bedroom such a mess? why was Marilyn's door locked at night when she didn't usually lock it?
Uh-huh.
So she had lots of questions. She's like, what is going on here?
Right.
But that was not the big story.
Okay. All right, so this isn't the big story.
No.
Where do we go?
We are diving into it slowly. That was dipping my toe in it.
Okay. Is it going to be JFK?
Mm-hmm.
Oh! Speaking of people that, like, who died under perhaps suspicious and...
Correct.
You just had to give me an unsolved story.
I know! Unsolved. Oh, don't worry. It's unsolved in so many ways.
Ooh.
November 22nd, 1963, as John F. Kennedy and his wife Jacqueline's vehicle was driving through Dealey Plaza, shots rang out. Kennedy was assassinated. Lee Harvey Oswald was apprehended at the movie theater.
Right.
If you don't know all about it, go read about it. I am
read a book.
Read a book. I am literally only focusing on the things that Dorothy spoke of.
Right, correct.
This.
We all know
this story.
Right.
During the transfer of Lee Harvey, Jack Ruby, the well-known club owner of Dallas, whom all the police knew, waltzed right past everyone since he knew all of them because all the policemen basically hung out at his club. And
hello, Jack. Hi, Jack.
Yeah,
hey, how's it going?
He supplied them drinks. He supplied them women, whatever. He strolls in, guns down Lee Harvey Oswald on national television. Dorothy was convinced that Kennedy was not killed by Lee Harvey.
Right.
She was already convinced. She had a good contact within the Dallas Police Department, and they gave her the original police log.
Oh my gosh. This woman knows how to find a source.
Yes. Per this info, she concluded that the Chief Jesse Curry had changed his story the day after the assassination.
Okay.
His first reaction was, get a man on top of that overpass and see what happened up there. The next day, he told reporters the shots came from the Texas
the grassy knoll,
depository.
Or the book depository, and possibly...
She also had a source within the Warren Commission. If anybody doesn't know what the Warren Commission is, that is the report that the U.S. released about the Kennedy assassination. She had a source within the Warren Commission and had published information dealing with Jack Ruby before the Warren Commission had published their final report. She's on it.
No kidding.
100,050%, right?
Man.
So, per Dorothy, the FBI might have been more... per Dorothy, because they started... They're like, the FBI's like, where did you get your information? Why did you get that before we did? Blah, 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 blah.
And she's like, I don't know.
And
Who did you talk to? Do you reveal your sources? I'm not telling mine.
And per Dorothy, she's like, the FBI might have been better profitable employed in probing the facts of the case rather than how I got them. Like, why are you...
Bravo.
I knew.
All right, I was kind of starting to dislike her after this Marilyn thing.
No.
But,
no, she immediately was like, holy shit, she was set up.
She was. I was going to say, I was about to dislike her after the Marilyn thing, but I'm starting to like her again because she's asking the right questions.
Right. She found that there had been a meeting between Jack Ruby, J.D. Tiddit, and Bernard Weissman a few days before the assassination. Now, I know you're asking, who are these other fellas I'm talking about? Come here, puppy. I know. It's a tip-tapping dance dog.
It is a tip-tapping dance dog. She is trying to...
herd a cat?
She's trying to herd a cat. So I'm just going to put the cat in this room, and the dog in this room, and as long as I can get this damn workstation... Oh, no.
Oh, well.
Sorry about it.
Okay, so J.D. Tippett, he was a Dallas police officer. Tippett, at 1:16 p.m., the day that Kennedy was assassinated, everybody's like wandering around trying to figure out where the hell those people, where's Lee Harvey Oswald? They're trying to figure everything out. And at 1:16 p.m., J.D. Tippit was approached by supposedly Lee Harvey Oswald walking along East 10th Street.
Okay.
And it was reported that Oswald pulled out a gun and shot J.D. Tippit 4 times.
Oh my gosh.
But and he died. Per 2 witnesses, they claim they saw Tippit attacked by 2 men, and neither of them were Lee Harvey Oswald. Exactly.
Okay.
Bernard Weissman, another person who was in a part of that meeting with Jack Ruby at his club, was a supporter of the John Birch Society. If you don't know what that is, it's a terrible society. And they're very right-wing. And some say that they're also in that same meeting. There was a wealthy oil businessman who was a part of the meeting. So a lot of right wing, a lot of people.
Oil barons.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. She published several articles about how witnesses were threatened by the Dallas police or the FBI.
Oh my goodness.
Aquila Clemens, who witnessed the shooting of Tippit, that police officer that I mentioned, said 2 men ran from the scene. Neither of them looked like Oswald. And then she added, I'm not supposed to be talking to anyone. Might get killed on the way to work.
Whoa. She said that.
Yes. Like, people were like, they were being told by...
Feeling cute might get deleted later.
Exactly. Yeah. And then Dorothy decides she's going to have an interview with Jack Ruby while he's in jail.
Okay.
She was able to have an interview in one of those little interrogation rooms.
Right.
With just him. The police officers stood outside.
Wow.
No one has any idea what the interview was about.
No recording or anything like that.
She just wrote it down.
I am amazed that she was allowed that kind of access.
I know. The interview only lasted like a whole 8 minutes.
Okay.
She never published the interview, and the reason why is she was in the process of writing a book called Murder One, and it was going to include something. It was about basically murders because she's a journalist.
Right.
She's writing about that, but there's a whole chapter on the JFK thing.
Oh dear. Okay.
And so that's why we never heard about it.
Uh-huh.
Now, after Jack Ruby's trial and him being sentenced to death, she was convinced there was conspiracy that had killed Kennedy. Right. She told friends that she was so close to discovering who killed Kennedy. She knew.
And she doesn't go around making boasts unless she's got the goods.
And she was keeping a lot of it to herself because she didn't want to get anybody else involved.
Right, because she doesn't want to put anybody else in harm's way, and she doesn't want to run the risk of something getting out and putting herself in harm's way.
Right. Wow. She ended... Bill Hunter, the reporter from the Long Beach Independent Press Telegraph, he was also investigating the killing of JFK. Hunter, along with Jim Koth and Tom Howard, again, people nobody knows, were told they needed to go search Jack Ruby's apartment.
Okay.
April 23rd, 1964, Hunter was shot and killed by a police officer, supposedly by accident.
Whoops! I mean, what was...
So these 2 reporters here, Bill Hunter...
Dead.
And, Bill Hunter and Jim Koth, they are both reporters. They are both trying to research this whole John F. Kennedy story. They go to the apartment, and then on the April 23rd, 1964, Hunter's shot and killed by a police officer, supposedly on accident.
Do we know the circumstances of what?
So he was somewhere. He was in a meeting or something, and then all of a sudden he got shot, and the cop said, "Oh, I was fucking around with my gun."
Okay, so that's weird.
It was weird. It didn't even make any sense.
Right.
And Jim Koth, the reporter from the Dallas Herald-Times, he was murdered in his apartment by someone who just broke in on September 21st, 1964. So basically, anybody who's trying to report on Kennedy
ends up dead.
Exactly.
Right. Wow. Now, is anybody... I mean, obviously Dorothy, but is anybody else connecting the dots here, going, why are all of these reporters...
Probably, but I'm sure a lot of people are also being told to not say anything, or they might be dead.
Right.
You know, they might get removed. Now, she, at one point, Dorothy did end up going down to have a meeting with somebody in New Orleans. There's some pretty good videos. There's some videos you can find on YouTube where they're interviewing her hairstylist.
Okay.
Because she would basically fly this guy. He did lots of famous people's hair. And so she sent him down, basically bought him a ticket to go down to New Orleans. She was going to meet up with somebody. She didn't tell him who, and he was going to do her hair. And he's like, yeah, I'd never been to New Orleans, and I'm wandering around. And then I don't know, somehow, I guess she left a message at his hotel. She's like, I bought you a ticket. You need to get out of here. Don't even worry about my hair.
Oh, wow.
So he's like, that seemed weird. He's like, she's like, I normally like to tell you guys everything, but I really should not.
But you need to go.
Right.
Just run.
Right. Just not good. Okay. You ready for the bad news?
I am sure
it's already bad because the president's dead. I
know, but so she didn't get her hair done? Is that the problem? Like her breasts were showing?
No.
Okay.
So, you know, something's afoot. Something is not right. November 7th, 1965. What's My Line is broadcast live from New York.
Oh my God.
Tonight's show, panelists question a wax museum owner, a female dynamite seller, and a football writer. So they have to guess all of these.
Wax museum owner is pretty fantastic.
I know,
how would you get to that?
Oh, they're so good.
Oh.
The mystery guests were the panelists are blindfolded and ask questions, trying to figure out who the famous guest is. That night, tonight's guest was Joey Heatherton, who was the leading lady with Troy Donahue in My Blood Runs Cold. I looked this up, and I think it had like 5.5 stars out of 10.
Oh,
so it wasn't a great movie.
Not a great movie.
But, you know, it came out. It was a movie at the time.
Right.
So she's the guest. Let's see here.
Forgettable films are made
all the time. You got to promote it. You go on a show. You know, that's how it works. The premise of the movie was that Ben, who was Troy Donahue, is a man obsessed with Julie, who is Joey Heatherton, claiming that he knew her and they knew each other in past lives.
Okay.
So it sounds like a fantastic movie, right? November 8th, 1965, Dorothy Kilgallen is found dead in her New York apartment.
Okay.
So this is literally the next day after that recorded.
Wow. So
episode.
she's on the show, and then the next day she's found dead in her apartment.
She was fully dressed and sitting upright in her bed. Police said she died from an accidental overdose from sleeping pills and alcohol. She did take about 2 sleeping pills a night, and she liked her whiskey. Okay. But she'd been doing this for years. Right. Years.
Okay.
The notes for the chapters she was writing on JFK
are missing.
Disappeared.
Oh my gosh.
Remember how I mentioned that Florence friend of hers who... we used to date JFK.
Right.
Okay. When she had a copy of the notes, by the way.
Florence did?
Yes. Okay. She gave Florence because
that's smart.
Dorothy is paying attention to these other people who happen to also be recording and end up deceased. And so she's like, you know what?
Just in case something happens.
Just in case, you keep a copy of my notes. 2 days after Dorothy died, Florence, had been given a copy of that, was found dead.
Oh my gosh.
Florence Pritchett, November 9th, 1965, in her Manhattan apartment. According to autopsy or whatever, she suffered a cerebral hemorrhage after several weeks of struggling with leukemia. Apparently, she had been ill since mid-August, but I still think it's very convenient she died.
That she died right away.
2 days later.
And the notes?
Gone.
Ah, wow. These women just really have to stop balling up their notes and eating them, Janet.
Exactly.
My God. If only she hadn't swallowed all of her writing.
Right? So crazy. Okay, so here's the issues with Dorothy's death. She was found in the master bedroom. She had not occupied that bedroom in years. She typically slept. She had a bed in her office.
In her office, so she stayed because she worked all the time.
She wasn't sleeping with her husband.
Right.
They slept in separate rooms. Mm-hmm. So she slept in her office. She was still wearing her false eyelashes. She always took them off at night.
Yeah, who falls asleep with that stuff on? By the time you go to bed, those,
Yeah.
You take your face off.
According to the guy that her hairstylist that she had flown down, mm-hmm. he knew a lot of stuff about her. He said that the book that they found in her hand, she had already finished reading.
Oh wow! So this was staged.
She could only read with her glasses, and her glasses were nowhere near her.
Okay, so
she wore something underneath her nightgown, which she never would have done.
Like undergarments or something like that.
Right. So just
who wears their bra and panties underneath their nightgown?
Right. According to sources, the night before, she went out with one of her friends. Uh-huh. And then she told her friend, well, I have a late night date tonight. And she didn't tell who. And we find out much, much, much later. I think we find out finally, like in 1993, who this person was. Ron Pataki. He was also a journalist who worked for the Columbus Citizen Journal. He worked on articles with Dorothy about the assassination. Okay. So she was in collab with another
journalist.
Exactly.
Hoping for safety in numbers, perhaps.
Right. Exactly. So. The night before she was found, she met with a friend, and then she meets up with Ron. And he did eventually, I think they figure out, he was referred to as the out-of-towner.
Okay.
But the thing is that we don't know who killed her.
No, we really don't.
Because we don't know who killed Kennedy.
Don't know.
I mean, could have been the CIA.
CIA is the go-to explanation that I have kind of always heard.
Could have Ron Pataki been set up to meet her? Because he didn't even meet her until like earlier that year.
Oh wow!
Like, was he set up somehow as someone that she could trust? Mm-hmm. And then maybe he had to take her out, or maybe he was just, I don't know, somehow involved. Did she have? Who was the secret meeting with in New Orleans? Mm-hmm. Was that part of it? I mean, there was, again, some things like maybe it was a mobster that she had a meeting with. So this...
Wow.
It's just crazy. And so the Sunday after, literally 7 days after she passes away, they're going to do this... They're going to go ahead and...
air the episode?
They're going to do a new... because it's live recorded, right?
Right.
And they decide, you know what? We're going to do this episode anyway.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to play it real quick. Hold on one second. Okay. I need to... Here we go. Hold on. I want to go all the way back. There we go. Technology. It's fun. Okay, so this is the person who's speaking. He's the moderator. He's the one who talks.
Right, the host.
The host of the show. Okay, here we go. Oh, you know what?
These are sad days.
It would help if that's on. I knew that would happen. It did it last time too. I'm like, okay.
Here we go.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Come on, back up. Thank you.
Is he going to play us a song?
These are sad days for us, as I'm sure they are for all those who learned about Dorothy Kilgallen's passing last Monday. Dorothy, Arlene, Bennett and I have been together on Sundays for the better part of 16 years. Kitty Carlisle and Steve Allen, who've been kind enough to come and give us moral support tonight, are also, in a way, members of the family. They very often have sat on the panel with us. We considered what we might do to express our sense of loss and to pay tribute to Dorothy in a special way. And in the end, we agreed with her good husband, Dick Colmar, that the best tribute to Dorothy would be to do What's My Line just as it was when she was here.
Oh.
That is what we will try to do.
Chills.
I know.
Little goosebumps right now. Oh.
And the thing is that at the end of the show, I think they guessed the special guest, but they did not guess the other ones. And Steve Allen even makes a comment like, you can clearly tell she is not here.
Because she would have gotten it.
Exactly, or help.
Oh my God.
Because they all collab together, basically.
Right. And as it turns out, her strongest strength and her weakest weakness is that she was just very good at guessing.
Yes.
Oh.
She knew how to ask the right questions.
Oh my gosh, wow.
So that is my story.
Oh my gosh.
Of an amazing lady who really, she probably would have figured it out. I was listening to some other things, like what would have happened if that didn't happen to her?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what could she have achieved? She was so smart.
Yeah.
She already achieved a lot.
We could use a sleuth like that today in so
Exactly.
many places.
Right.
Wow.
There is a comment about, like, there always will be journalists, and journalists will always find a way.
I love it. Wow, that was
my story.
That was worth the wait, and I am so glad that I resisted my impulse to seek out spoilers and
Did you know she was gonna die?
I knew she was probably going to... I was like, okay, when she's the topic of the subject, so she's either going to die or she's going to kill someone.
Right.
And so I figured, I was like,
No.
or she's going to abscond with a bunch of money. And her being the victim was definitely kind of at the top of my list. Like I said, I thought for some reason that this was going to go down a Patty Hearst
Yeah. Nope.
path. So I am wrong, and that was on edge of my seat. Thank you. Such a good story.
So that is my story of Dorothy Kilgallen.
That is fantastic. And I have brought a little story for you
Oh, good.
this week. So, woof! All right.
No, shake it off. Shake it off.
All right, Janet. I've got a little tale to tell you.
Oh, good.
And I wish that it were funnier, but it does have its moments. So, all right, we'll just jump in. All right, Janet, have you ever heard of Theodore Coneys?
No, I have not.
Okay, almost never been. Most people have not.
Gotcha.
Let's see. He was born November 10th, 1882, in Petersburg, Illinois, to Canadian immigrant parents. They owned a hardware store. So, nice, middle-class, Midwestern couple. They have a child. Theodore will be their only child. And that is because when he is born, he's a very, very sickly infant. He has very weak lungs and a very weak heart. And the doctors say that he is not going to see 18.
Oh my gosh.
So his mother is dotes over him, fawns over him, watches over every single aspect of his health, just tries so hard to get her baby to thrive.
Right.
And, have as many years as he can. Now, that means that he doesn't go to school, he's not allowed to play sports, he's pretty isolated. Now, when he's 6, his father passes away. So, again, this is, the late 1880s, 1890s.
Right.
So his mother moves to Beloit, Wisconsin, and then shortly thereafter to Denver, where she becomes a housekeeper for the Denver Democratic Club.
Okay.
So she's doing domestic work and then also just trying her best to keep her sickly baby boy alive.
Right.
Theodore, so again, no school. He's not allowed to go out and like play stickball with the kids, run, or anything like that. So no friends.
Aw.
Then his mom gets sick. And so he's trying to, as he goes through his teenage years, he's kind of trying to take care of her because she can't work as much.
Oh.
But he doesn't really do well with getting a job because, again, no education,
Right.
absolutely no social skills. He's not going to be the personality hire. You know, so he can't do much to contribute. There's no skill set. So he is frequently, and I think maybe they are frequently homeless.
Oh, no.
And he says at one point in time, he tells somebody that all he wants to do is to be alone and free from others and the judgment of others.
Okay.
But the one thing that he does kind of get into is he likes to play guitar.
Okay.
So he becomes a member of the Denver Guitar Society.
Oh, okay.
And when he's 17, Theodore makes one friend. One friend. His name is Philip Peters.
Okay.
He's an older guy, kind of maybe also that missing father figure since he lost his dad so young. He's a retired railroad worker, and he lives with his wife, Helen.
Oh.
And he is just a kind-hearted soul, just a good man. So Helen and Philip, they feed Theodore and his mom sometimes when they're really hard up. And then after, spoiler alert, his mom dies not long after. So they feed Theodore. And so they kind of fall into this pattern where they won't see him for a little while. And then he'll show up and be like, do you have anything to eat? And so they'll bring him in and, you know, give him food, give him a place to kind of like warm up, spend a couple of hours, check in on him.
Right.
Maybe Philip will, you know, they're not wealthy, but Philip might slip Theodore a little bit of cash here and there, you know, just to kind of help him get by. They're salt of the earth, these people, the Peters.
Nice.
So eventually they do drift apart, and so it's been years or decades, and they haven't seen or heard from Theodore. So they figure like either something has happened to him or maybe he's just kind of moved along.
Sure.
Right? So, in September of 1941, years and years later, Theodore shows up on the porch of the Peters household. He is cold, he is hungry, he is tired, and he is desperate. I'm going to show you just this picture of the Peters house.
Yeah, it's just
a modest home.
Yep, it's just a small, it looks almost like a shotgun. Almost.
Little two-story, you know, like a little two-story house with a fence out front, like the yard is in the front.
Right.
And all of that. Well, he shows up on the doorstep, and he's really, really desperate. Now, the Peters aren't home, but the door is unlocked.
Oh, okay.
Theodore says, and this is a quote, "I was in bad shape. My lungs were giving me a whole lot of trouble." So he tries the door and he lets himself in, intending to just take a little bit of food and maybe some money, you know, if there's anything laying out. So he looks around to see if there's anything else, like maybe something little that he could take. Maybe there's some loose change, some cash laying around somewhere. And as he's going through the house, in a closet, he notices a trapdoor. It is tiny. They say it's about the size of a cigar box, so at most like the size of like a standard laptop, you know?
Yeah.
So it's very, very tiny, but it opens. Okay. And he fits.
Okay.
And it leads to the attic.
Okay.
Theodore, he goes up into the attic, this little found space, and he is cold and sick, and he's got a full stomach for the first time in days, and he's warm for the first time in days. Again, this is in Denver, and this is in the fall. So he says, "Oh, I just laid down, and I slept, and I slept, and I slept." And you know how that is when you're like, oh God, sometimes that's all you're so starved for sleep. Right. That it's almost even worse than being starved for food. Right. So he sleeps. Now, Janet,
Tracey.
you might ask, where are the Peters?
Yeah, where are they?
Well, Philip is 73. His wife is up there too. I couldn't get an age on her. But his wife has recently broken her hip.
Oh.
So she's in the hospital.
Okay.
And that means most of the time during the day, Philip is there with her.
Ah.
And the neighborhood loves him. Again, he's the nicest man in town. So they look in on him. And they kind of, in this, 1940s version of a meal train, somebody has him over for dinner every night. Because this 73-year-old man can't be expected to cook for himself.
Right.
So they feed him and they send him home with leftovers so he'll have something to warm up the next day.
Right.
And so that's why he was away.
And the neighborhood is helping him out.
And the neighborhood is helping him out. So Helen's in the hospital with a broken hip.
Right.
Philip is either at the hospital or else he's, over at a neighbor's house for supper. So Theodore wakes up from his nap and he decides, this attic is a lot more accommodating than freezing to death.
Yeah.
In the fall, on the streets of Denver.
Right.
So he thinks he's going to maybe stay a little while.
Okay.
How long can this last?
Well, you and I have listened to some other stories.
Yes. I will never be able to do... There's a podcast, Muddy Buddies, called The Dollop, and you need to listen to episode 200, where they partner up with the podcast hosts of My Favorite Murder, and they tell a story about an attic dweller, and it might be my favorite episode of any podcast
It's the best.
ever.
And we're not going to tell you
We're
anything
not going
about
to tell
it,
you,
but it's amazing.
And we'll never do that story because we could never do it better.
We can't do that justice.
So, I will tell you, this is not an Otto in the attic situation.
Damn.
How long? Take a guess.
I'm going to say 6 months. I'm gonna.
That's pretty good.
Okay.
Not quite that long. So this goes on for about 5 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Respectable.
Respectable.
For hiding in somebody's attic.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably pull it off that long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what Theodore thinks. Well, Theodore comes out when he hears that Philip is left and is away, or when he knows that Philip is asleep. Like in the middle of the night when the house is quiet.
Right.
He'll come out and he'll rummage for food. After all, Philip, you're loved by all the neighborhood. There are so many casseroles.
He's fine.
He's got so many leftovers. Every neighborhood, family in town is like, no. Take the spaghetti.
Take the spaghetti.
Here, have more. So he comes out and he rummages for food while Philip is asleep or away, and he stays quiet while Philip is home. But this undiscovered roommate situation cannot last forever.
No, God, no.
So, like I said, about 5 weeks later, October 17th, 1941, Theodore thinks that Philip is napping.
Oh.
Philip is not napping.
What is Philip doing?
He's awake at home in your house.
At his house,
right?
like you do.
And Philip hears a noise, and he comes out and follows the noise and finds Theodore standing at the fridge.
What are you doing here?
Well, the thing is now, remember he was a scared, hungry teenager the last time they saw him. It has been years.
Oh, my God.
Theodore is now 59 years old.
Jesus.
Philip does not recognize him.
No.
So Philip does what you do when you find a strange man at your fridge and swings at him with the walking stick he always carried.
Oh.
Tries to, chase off the intruder, defend
Right.
himself and his home. Theodore hits him with an old pistol that he had found somewhere in the house and had just been kind of carrying around. I don't know why. But he hits him with the pistol, and the pistol is antique, and it breaks immediately and falls apart. So Theodore then beats him to death with a cast iron stove shaker.
Why? He could have just left.
I think he panics,
He could have just
and that's
left.
kind of what he says.
Oh my
is,
God.
and I'm going to pull up a stove shaker and show you what that is. Sorry, there was an Amber Alert, so I couldn't get
I got
to
the
my-
same one.
Okay. So I didn't know what a stove shaker was.
But no, neither do I.
In these old cast iron stoves, like you would see
Yes.
that would be wood burning, there's a grate in the bottom of them. And the stove shaker is the piece that you can attach to the grate so that the handle isn't hot, but you can kind of
Shake it
so that the ashes will drop down to the bottom of the stove and the stove won't go out.
Right.
So here is a photo.
Oh, yeah, that would hurt.
It would. It is a solid piece of cast iron. It's shaped kind of in like an S shape, but more angular. And so it's a heavy piece of metal that does have a nice big handle on it that would be, I mean, if you're going to bludgeon someone to death,
that would do the job.
Would do the job. Right.
That would do the job.
So later that night, just a few hours later, Philip doesn't show up at the neighbors for dinner.
Ugh.
The neighbors, they come over and they knock on the door. You know, they're calling through the windows. They don't hear anything. So they contact the police. This is an old man. He's home alone.
Right.
Someone do a wellness check on him.
Exactly.
The police arrived. There's no sign of forced entry. The windows and the doors are all locked, but they gain access to the house. And they find, nothing is really disturbed, except for they also find the body.
Yeah.
Clearly beaten. And next to a blood-soaked stove shaker.
Jeez.
Now, as they're going through the house, they do also find the trapdoor.
Oh my gosh. Okay, what's in the trapdoor? Oh.
That's the one to the attic. Uh-huh.
I know.
They look at it and they're like, that's way too small. There's absolutely no way that a person would fit through there.
Oh my God.
So they shrug and they just say, well, Philip didn't have any enemies. Helen didn't have any enemies. This is just a mystery.
Oh my God.
So, meanwhile, a little bit of time passes. Helen is now up one hip, but down a husband.
Oh my God.
So she gets discharged from the hospital and she comes home. She has a friend that she kind of employs as a housekeeper and just sort of to help her around the house. She's still having a little trouble getting around because it's the 1940s and she just broke her hip.
Right.
And also to kind of keep her company. She's a grieving widow also, or widower also.
Oh my God.
Widow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so the housekeeper friend moves in, keeping her company. But this doesn't last for very long. Within a month, the housekeeper leaves because this house is clearly haunted.
Oh no!
I mean, Janet, how could the house not be haunting? Food goes missing.
Yeah.
Weird smells from, just out of the blue. And then random noises or sounds sometimes. Also, things don't stay where she puts them,
Oh my God.
You set something down over here, you know it was over here.
Right.
You wake up and it's over there. So this is clearly the work of a ghost.
Oh my God.
So the housekeeper is like, sorry, Helen, about your hip and your hubby.
But I'm not staying here.
I'm not staying in this. About the hip, the hubby, and the haunting. But I gotta go. And Helen doesn't stay much longer. She has a son that is living in nearby Grand Junction, Colorado. And so he's like, Mom, you can't be in that house by yourself. Why don't you come and stay with me and with my wife? And so, so she moves in with her son in Grand Junction. So now the house is vacant. Or is it? Even after everybody has moved out, the neighbors report sounds, sometimes seeing what looks like a face in a window.
Oh no.
And these weird smells that emanate from the house.
Uh-huh.
So the next door neighbor who is kind of the one that leads the charge, I guess, on all this. Her name is Mabel Burke, and she's the mother of 5 children. And so God bless her, first of all.
Yeah, right?
But, so housewife raising 5 kids somehow manages to find the time to be super nosy about what's going on at the house next door with the weird smells. And even to the point that at one day, she arms herself with a baseball bat.
Wow.
I guess one of her kids must have played.
Yeah.
Mabel arms herself with a baseball bat, and she goes over and knocks on the door. Mabel's okay, I promise.
Okay.
Like, Mabel's gonna be all right.
Okay.
But everybody go out and get yourself a neighbor like Mabel immediately.
Exactly.
Knock, knock! Who's here? I'm picturing her like banging the bat on the door. Boom, boom, boom. It stinks in here! Now, she is also kind of following up with the police anytime that they see something. She sees something, she says something.
Yeah.
So the police do routinely kind of drive by and check on the house. And this goes on for quite some time.
Like how long?
Well, remember that October 17th is when the big confrontation between Philip and Theodore goes down. And that is October 17th of 1941.
Okay.
July 30th, 1942.
Oh my God.
Officers Roy Bloxham and Bill Jackson. Bloxham and Jackson. Which I want them to make a TV show.
Right.
They drive by and they see a man inside the house.
Oh.
So they stop and they enter the house, and as they enter the house, they hear a click that comes from the upstairs. So they go to the second floor and they open up the closet and they find...
Him?
legs.
Legs?
Legs. Disappearing up the attic. So Bloxham and Jackson are on the case, man. Bloxham and Jackson. Bloxham, Jackson. Bloxham grabs one leg, Jackson grabs the other. They pull.
Oh my God.
And after a brief struggle, down comes Theodore.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he confesses right away. And he does seem pretty remorseful. He said that it was just a split-moment decision. He didn't know what to, He is taken into custody. He tells them everything, all about the murder, all about his remorse, all about his feelings of desperation, and all about the attic. So they send the smallest officer on the force. Bloxham and Jackson are just like, hey, you Pee-wee, get on over here. They send the tiniest officer on the force. He goes up to the attic and immediately just like vomits all over everywhere because the smell is awful.
Oh no.
Theodore, you see, had not been disposing of his own waste.
Oh my God.
For all those months.
Jesus.
Like, not his trash and not his, like, body waste.
Oh my God.
His bed was an old ironing board that was stacked with a bunch of old magazines. So I'm going to show you a picture of, hang on, what the attic looked like. Let me find, here we go. All right, I'm going to have to show it to you in that mode so you can see it. Okay, so as you can see,
there's just, it looks like to the right there, he has like some furniture. There's stuff in here. There's stuff in the attic.
Like a shelf or something.
There's a shelf, and that looks like a bucket, and then another bucket. Obviously you would need buckets. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is a tiny, to call it an attic is very charitable. It is more of just like a crawl space.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a crawl space with a deeply tented roof so that, you couldn't stand up in it. And this pile over here to the left where you see like all of those magazines, that's where there was like an ironing board.
Wow.
And barely enough room for him to kind of stretch out a little bit. So the officer, once he recovers from losing his lunch, says, "Why, a man would have to be a spider to stand it long up here." So the press latches on to that. And this is where you won't know the name Theodore Coneys, but they do refer to him as the sneaky, sneaky Spider-Man of Denver. Obviously, this is a media sensation.
Of course.
Now, Theodore himself, by the time they find him, he was filthy. He is in tattered clothes. He's been wearing the same clothes for months. He hasn't been using the restroom to, like, get rid of it. And it's 1940s. You would think there had to be indoor plumbing.
Oh, there is definitely indoor plumbing.
He didn't have an outhouse or anything. But he doesn't bathe, and he doesn't, he doesn't bathe, and he's not changed his clothing or anything like that. You can kind of see a photo of him.
Yeah.
He's still gaunt.
Yeah, he's gaunt.
He's in, like, just...
His shoes are all torn up.
Uh-huh.
His pants they look like they're frayed and rolled up. His shirt is tied, probably because it's frayed on the bottom, I would assume.
And they said as they were pulling him down that, like, pieces of fabric are literally, like, coming off of his clothes in the struggle because he's been wearing the same dirty clothes for months in this dirty, dirty attic. The sheriff was... this is the most poetic sheriff's quote I've ever heard. This man should have been a writer. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
"He was the strangest looking human I'd ever seen. Tall, just under 6 feet. Thin as a wilted reed. Dirty hair hung low over his ears. Skin the ugly, unwashed gray of an overcast sky." Wow. Right?
Wow.
I know. I'm just like, you go, chef poet, or sheriff poet. So Theodore the Spider-Man, the boy that wasn't supposed to live to adulthood, is now sentenced to life without parole. And he must have, you can see this photo that was in the newspaper where he's stretching the fuck out in his jail cell.
He's like, I'm finally warm.
I'm warm, I'm fed. He's got his feet up on a desk.
Like,
He's living the life.
Holy cow.
So he's given life without parole. And he dies finally in the Colorado State Penitentiary on May 16th, 1967, at the age of 84.
Wow.
So he wasn't supposed to live, but he did survive, and he lived to be even older than the elderly the elderly man that he killed.
Wow.
And he is buried in Canyon City, Colorado. And that is the story of the sneaky, sneaky Spider-Man of Denver.
Sneaky, sneaky
the
Spider-Man!
Sneaky is the part that got me.
You're like, oh, I'm doing a story on
that. My sources today were Wikipedia, denverlibrary.org, which has an excellent story about this, thedenvergazette.com, and 10minutemurders.com.
Wow, that was great.
Thank you.
That was a great story.
All right. Well, I would normally take Janet out back, but I think tonight I'm going to take her up into the crawl space and see who she's been talking to and what they did for a living. And we will be back momentarily with What's Nice.
We'll be back. If you're enjoying getting muddy with us, here are some ways you can help support our podcast. If you have any suggestions, please send them to bigmuddymayhem@gmail.com. Like and subscribe to the podcast on the platform where you're listening, and of course, a good review will help us reach new listeners. If you're listening on YouTube, leave a comment in the comments section. Make sure to join our Facebook group where we can discuss the episodes and hear your suggestions. We also have another request from us.
We do. We have a new idea and a request from Tracey and Janet. Have you been associated with a true crime or a spooky story? Bad behavior, maybe? We would like to start collecting stories and have a very special episode where we tell your stories, your submissions. So please do. If you've got a story that you would like to hear us tell on the podcast, please send it to bigmuddymayhem@gmail.com or else reach out through our Facebook group and we will tell your story. Now, Janet and I know how to keep a secret, so if you'd like your story to remain anonymous, just let us know and we won't tell.
We won't tell anyone.
We won't say a word.
And now let's get back to what's nice. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
And now it's time for what's nice.
It's time for what's nice here. Janet, I hope that you have something nice for us.
I do.
Okay.
So we started in Chicago. Mm-hmm. Yes, this is a Midwest podcast, but she died in her Manhattan apartment.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with something in Manhattan.
That's all right.
Because it makes sense.
It's our podcast. We can do what we want.
We can do what we want. So it turns out her apartment is literally a block away from Central Park.
Oh, wonderful.
New York Central Park is a world-famous public park created beginning in 1858 to address the recreation needs of a rapidly growing city.
Okay.
Its original purpose was to offer urban dwellers an experience of the countryside, just kind of like how Forest Park was.
Forest Parks get bigger. Sorry, wow. My Midwest gremlin just came out.
It was a place to escape the stresses of urban life and to commune with nature and fellow New Yorkers. Over 150 years later, the park still provides this essential purpose and welcomes all visitors, while accommodating newer forms of recreation activities with 42 million visits a year.
Oh my gosh.
Central Park is one of the most visited urban parks in the country and one of the most popular destinations in New York City.
Aw.
So, yeah.
Fantastic.
I mean, it was literally a block and a half from our house.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, do you know the tie-in between Central Park and St. Louis?
No, I don't.
All right. A little bit of extra trivia for
Yes,
you.
I love it.
So there is a playground in Central Park called Hippo Playground that has a bunch of like these little hippo statues and stuff like that. Some are coming out of the ground. Some are, like big ones with their mouths open that you can climb inside of and all of that. And if that sounds familiar to you, it would be because those hippos were sculpted by Bob Cassilly, the sculptor and founder and creative force behind St. Louis's own City Museum, where, if you have ever noticed the hippo on the roof, one of the models for the hippos in Central Park. So there's a little tie-in. So there, we brought it back to St. Louis. So your What's Nice technically does. Tracey with the assist.
So that's my What's Nice. I'm
That
not
is
going to
very
go
nice.
super into it because everybody knows
No,
what Forest
Central Park. Yeah.
Central Park. It's
Okay.
what it is.
Well, I have a fun What's Nice for us this week. Now, we just talked about the Spider-Man.
Yes.
I am going to take us to the Denver Butterfly Pavilion.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So while it is mostly butterflies, being the Butterfly Pavilion, much like our own butterfly house here in St. Louis, the Butterfly Pavilion also does celebrate other insects. In fact, one of their exhibit areas is called Survival. And that one features arthropods, including one famous resident that has been fostering goodwill and getting visitors curious about invertebrates for ages now. So you can go to the Denver Butterfly Pavilion and you can meet Rosie.
Rosie?
The Chilean rose-hair tarantula.
Oh.
She's from the Atacama Desert in Chile. Over the past 30 years,
holy cow,
Rosie has delighted visitors.
Oh my God.
You can hold her and you get to earn a little badge of courage. They give you a little sticker for handling her. And over 3 million visitors have held Rosie over the last 30 years.
Holy cow.
Now,
I did not know tarantulas could live that long.
Well, they don't.
I'm like, what? I'm so confused.
Since rose-hair tarantulas only live about 5 years, and since every Rosie is only expected to work about 2 hours a week, they don't want to stress these bugs out by letting them, passing them to everybody in Mrs. Smith's third grade classroom. So they have multiple Rosies at any given time, and when they age out or if they just like don't seem to take to the work. Rose-haired tarantulas, I come to find out, are like very, very docile, and they actually kind of like a little bit of human interaction, unlike our Spider-Man. So over the last 30, and it has been 30 years, over 140 tarantulas have played Rosie over the years. And they just, they age them out. Now, they don't call them, they put them in other exhibits featuring tarantulas. They actually did start a rose-haired tarantula, breeding program. So some of them go on to other zoos just for biodiversity and stuff like that. But, yes, Rosie has caused 3 million people to maybe overcome their fear of spiders or engage with their love of spiders. And they really do celebrate her at the pavilion.
Aww.
Up to and including the point that they throw birthday parties for her every year. So...
Oh, no.
It's a little picture. So I have a little picture of itty bitty baby Rosie with a little birthday hat and a little tiny cake. So I love Denver, and I have not been to the Butterfly Pavilion.
No,
but it's definitely on my short list next time. I want my badge of courage sticker.
Yeah,
I want to go meet Rosie, and I want to tell her happy birthday. And I am glad that I could finish up what would have been kind of some bummer stories with a photo of a spider
and a birthday cake and
a tarantula in a hat. Saying happy birthday.
That is amazing.
All right, so that is my What's Nice.
Yay!
And we've had a good time here tonight.
Have. Oh my goodness.
So,
good stories, both of them.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you guys for hanging in with us. Again, please do send in your own personal stories if you've got them. Please do tell your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers all about the podcast. Get them to tune in. We really love doing this for you, and we really like getting muddy with you every week. And gosh, I mean, that's I guess about all the news that I've got. But
I think there is one thing.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
I nearly forgot.
Yeah, what is that?
We need to remind you all also to please stay Midwest nice.
Stay Midwest nice.